I'm gonna say it. This is the greatest show of all time.
Yeah, I've got. This is some of, if not the best TV show I think I've watched. It's been more than just this is a chef show. The writers have wanted to show that being a chef is more than just running a restaurant or whatever. There's so much love across every restaurant for this craft, from the sandwich shop to these Michelin star restaurants.
Talking about good and evil, the Acolyte.
So where do I sign up to become Carmy's acolyte?
Do you remember in season 3 when Herogasm came out?
Yeah,
I said everyone was saying this was going to be the most insane thing ever,
yeah.
and I feel like it ended up actually disappointing a little bit. This episode is the most insane episode they've done.
It was, it was wild.
Hello, and welcome to episode 121 of Cutscene Combos. We have got an absolutely gangbusters episode. We've got a character profile on Starlight from The Boys. We've got the Acolyte, episode 6. We've got the Boys, episode 6. We have got the Bear, season 3, because they don't believe in episode releases for the Bear. They just dumped it all in us, so we binged it in a week. And we've got an entire season to catch up on. Many things have happened. As always, we've also got the Nerd News Network to round things out. But for all that stuff, horizontal. How's your week been?
Well, it was my birthday the weekend.
It was.
So my official age is 29, as much as Connor
89.
tries to muddy the waters, but that's fine. So yeah, I had a chill time, drinks, played some Switch games with my friends.
Fun.
The only one that I won was Wii bowling, so we take that.
Because you're the old enough to remember when the Wii was like a new gen console.
True. I actually, to be fair, I clutched it up. You know, like the last turn you get to do 3 goes. I got strike, 9. I very nearly got 3 strikes in a row. I was very annoyed. But yeah, I had a chill time, and then other than that, like, been doing, I think it was, I can't remember if I'd started it before we recorded last week, but I was doing work in the garden with my dad. We were redoing.
I don't think you had started it.
So I think I did that Friday, just before I went off for my birthday. So yeah, I think Friday we laid like all the basically in the corner of our garden there was some flags, but like my dad can't remember when we did it, so that's how long it's been there. And it was at that point, you know, where like just when flags are really old, they're like all up and down. It's like all the mortar's gone. Like they were a mess. So we spent some time redoing all that. And then other than that, been a chill week, catching up on the Bear and all the shows, and playing X Defiant. Yeah, that's kind of been the week, binging shows.
Yeah, it's been a busy one.
How's your week been?
Chaos. Yeah, absolute chaos. What was it? It was Saturday was loads of editing to try and get ahead. Sunday was driving all the way to. I always say up. No matter where I'm going, I say up, even if it's the south. And when people correct me, I'm like, go over yourself. We went to Northampton to go see my eldest brother because it was my nephew's 18th birthday on Saturday. So we went up to see him on Sunday to have a nice midday meal with him, which was lovely. Then it was back home to watch the England game, which for football fans will know was one of the most infuriating and stressful games we've watched in a number of years. Then just work over the week, as well as also trying to squeeze in 10 hours of the Bear, or whatever the fuck it was in the end. But it was good. I enjoyed it. It's all been very busy. It's all been very chaotic, but we are earing towards the normality again. You know, sometimes you have a week where, although nothing crazy seems to be going on, it just seems to be at 110% a week. That's what this week has felt like.
Something I forgot that I also did this week while watching shows was build my little Lego helmet.
Mando helmet, go burr.
It is actually quite hefty. weight
Yeah,
wise.
because it's not completely hollow in the
Oh
middle,
no,
is
it's
it?
solid in the middle. It's just a solid block essentially.
Yeah.
Um, it has definitely made me now want, because obviously I've seen the Star Wars Lego helmets and I've always thought they're pretty cool. I now kind of want Rex.
See, this is the problem I always have with stuff like this. Whenever I see a cool collectible, I'm like, you're not allowed to get it, Connor, because then you will want them all.
Mm, it's
Um,
especially because they are like, they're not tiny, but they're a good size and good shelf items. So it's like
they're
very
they're, they're
tempting to get the
just
Rex one.
they're just small enough for you to go. Oh, they won't take up that much room, and then you have 10 of them, and you're like, where do all these things go?
Do you know what they need to do? And we'll get to
Gone.
obviously Acolyte later, but if they make a Acolyte helmet, I would maybe very much get that one.
Yeah,
That would be very
absolutely.
cool.
But yeah, it's been overall a good week, and let's jump straight in with our character profiles.
Yes, let's.
We've done, I think, one boy's character profile in the past on Black Noir.
Yes, we did.
And I've decided now that we know for absolute certainty the boys is not going the same way as the comics, that we may as well just jump in and do the character profiles because we have no idea what may or may not spoil anything.
Yep.
Just at the top of this, there is a content warning. The Boys is a hyper violent and sexual comic and show, and as a result, parts of this character profile include incredibly uncomfortable subject matters, including violence, sexual assault, and things of the like. So, if any of them things might upset you, please skip over this segment, or if you're watching the segment by itself, this is one for you to skip. Rebecca Ann or Annie January first appeared in The Boys #3 in September of 2006. Starlight in the comics is similar to the Starlight we've come to know and love in the show in a number of ways, but as with all of the Boys characters in the show, a number of changes have been made. This profile focuses on the comic version of the character solely. After her powers accidentally and permanently blinding her parents, leaving them crippled with debt due to their disability, Annie was handed over to Vought. Vought then rehomed her with an adoptive family. However, this adoptive family didn't actually care for Annie or love her in any way. Instead, they treated her like a dog or horse, taking her to pageants up and down the country and trotting her out for their own gain and satisfaction. As she eventually aged, she would go on to join the Young Americans, a group of teen superheroes whose group identity was focused around patriotism and conservative values. However, Annie was the only member of the team who actually abided by these, as the rest were up to evil acts in their spare time. After serving on this team, Annie got upgraded to become a member of the Seven to replace the recently deceased Lamplighter. What should have been a big moment for Annie was quickly ruined when it was revealed to her that she was there for the sexual gratification of the other members of the Seven, when she was sexually assaulted by Homelander, Black Noir, and A-Train. This bullying only worsened before she even began to consider standing up for herself. She was only brave enough to finally make a stand when A-Train attempted to rape her, and she used her powers to blind him, albeit only temporarily. Not long after joining the Seven, she met Huey Campbell and began to date him. However, neither of them are aware of the other's day job. When it is eventually revealed to Huey he's dating a superhero, he is both shocked and angry. This pain is then amplified when Butcher shows him footage of Annie performing oral sex on members of the Seven without the context of the coercion and threats she was receiving. This led to Huey dumping her. They stay separated. They do try on a number of occasions to get over it and move on, but Huey is never able to move past what he saw up until near the very, very end of the series when they finally rekindle their relationship and go on to get married. So, obviously, it's not a night and day difference with the show.
No.
That instead of it being all of the male members of the Seven, it's just Deep in the show.
Yeah.
And of course, when she fights back against that, Deep gets shipped off, and it works a bit differently.
Mm.
Of course, in the show, Huey is fully aware she's a superhero when he meets her, because originally
Yeah.
the only reason he even met her was to try and get in with the Seven. But she's also doesn't become a part of the boys in the comics. She's very much a secondary character. Whereas obviously in the boys, she's become a key part of the boys,
Yeah.
fighting against the corruption in the Seven of Homelander and everything like that. Another key difference, in my opinion, is something the writer himself said. She initially wasn't going to be a love interest for Huey.
Oh.
She was going to be a character who just got more and more abused as the show went on, as the series went on, with no kind of turning around of it. She was just supposed to be there as like a look how much this person is willing
Yeah.
to take. But then the writer said, while writing a couple of panels of Huey moping about on a park bench, it just came to him to have Annie walking past. And then these two people who are almost fighting against each other end up becoming
Yeah.
intertwined. Um, but I'd argue she's a much more tragic character in the comic through what she went through in much more of a severe way. And she
Yeah.
also doesn't get the self actualization of being able to actively fight back against all that shit. In the comic, it's just kind of she escapes, but she still has to deal with all of it in a very painful way and doesn't get any kind of revenge or closure.
Yeah, and I feel like in the show, we're actually starting to see that she had a bit of a darker side.
Yes,
So they're being a bit more, I don't know, giving a bit more depth to that, actually, the things that she went through and stuff.
absolutely. I don't think it's any secret that my opinion on the boys as a comic is that it's edgelord. It's
Mm.
a writer who hated superheroes, and that's very evident. It's written for 13-year-old edgelords. Um, it is hyper violent and hypersexual for no reason in a lot of places. And The Boys as a show is very similar, but it makes it make a bit more sense. When I say in the comics it's for literally no reason, it is literally for no reason.
Mm.
And the women in the show are just not treated in the same way at all. There aren't anywhere near as many women.
No.
It's just an all white male cast in the comic. A-Train is white. Stormfront is a dude.
Right,
It's
okay.
like it's completely differently. They've taken the core concept of the boys, and
Mm.
they've definitely made it make more sense to a larger audience for sure.
Yeah, which is good.
But yeah, we'll get into some more character profiles over the coming weeks so that we can see the differences between the comic and the show. Talking about good and evil,
Mm.
the Acolyte.
So where do I sign up to become Carmy's acolyte?
What I will say is, and this is not slander, this is not a good thing, this is not a bad thing, this is purely a statement of fact.
Okay.
Women on the internet have been thirsty as fuck for 2 weeks straight
Oh
now.
yeah. This week's
And I
just
don't blame
added
him,
to it
he's a
more.
good
Like,
looking dude.
it's almost like they knew last week they'd catch on to like his arms and stuff, because that's all I was seeing over Twitter last week.
Mm-hmm.
And they were like, okay, we're gonna follow that episode up with one that's really gonna get them hooked in.
Yeah. Yeah. It's crazy.
um I mean, it was definitely felt a bit of a short episode.
Yes, but I just think that's because there wasn't any action
Yeah, I
after
think that's
the 30-minute fight
yeah,
scene of the week
that's
before.
I think it finished. I was like, that felt short. Then I'm like, oh, it's been half an hour. Then I was thinking, I was like, no, it's more just like this was a bit more spaced out, different storylines happening, and not the intensity we had last week. And I think that's why. Um,
Absolutely.
did you clock that OSHA fully checked out his lightsaber?
Yeah.
The eyes went down, and there's so
Yeah.
many people that have like clipped that.
So it's really interesting. I've seen a lot of people talking about it, and it's there's a number of different ways you can take it. A lot of women have obviously gone, he's a very attractive dude. So, and don't get me wrong, like men do it as well when they're like, when there's an attractive character, they look past their like negative qualities. It's a very human thing to do.
Yeah.
But a lot of people are kind of like shipping Osha and Chimera after this. And then you've
No,
also got a
that's not the
bunch of
reason.
women, yeah, and then you've got a bunch of women who have come from maybe worse situations are going, no, this is exactly how you fall into that trap.
Mm,
This is not a romantic thing at all. He's just manipulating
mhm.
you. Run.
Oh, yeah, this is 100% him using seduction, like, physical seduction as a way to seduce her to the dark side.
Yeah,
Like, he
absolutely.
mentions the Jedi are focused on, like, learning certain things, but if you look in this episode, he talks about, like, if you look past that, there are other ways to build the Force through anger, emotion, whatever, and it's his desire. Like, he's clearly using those things, and it's like, he knew he was being followed. Like, there's no way he didn't. The way he just walks along the rocky beach when she's at the water edge, like, he knows she's then gonna follow him. He knew, yeah, you could see it when he got in the water that he sort of, like, looks to the side, like, showing that he's sensing that she's there. The whole idea of him being naked, going for a swim, like, it's
It was
all.
just to seem vulnerable so
Yeah,
that she would in turn lower her god.
yeah, it's just him like, he
He's playing the game.
realizes, yeah, he realizes from last week when, um, she obviously was like, the information about Soul, he sensed that she has this, like, uncertainty of what's actually the truth, and now he's just trying to, like, work on that and use that to his advantage.
Yeah, absolutely.
Um,
It is crazy.
his cave, this planet, titled in in the show as Unknown Planet. So
Yeah, I've seen lots of speculation around this.
um, I
Can I
am
just out
go on.
myself as a smaller Star Wars fan real quick? Like I'm not a nerd for Star Wars like I am for comic book
Mm,
stuff. When I first saw it, I
yeah,
thought it was the same island that we found Luke Skywalker on.
in the
Yeah,
sequels.
because it was giving that same vibe, just really rocky island in the middle of the fucking ocean. I was like, it's kind of giving similar vibes, and obviously this is like what 150,
Oh,
years
yeah.
before that. So I'm like, it could be that like just erosion and shit.
So there's a lot of people I think actually went the same route because we haven't seen another planet similar, I guess. But people that know Star Wars better than me, and obviously know legend stuff better, there is a planet called Aldemnik, which is an ocean planet with rocky islands and has rich cortosis deposits. And as soon as, like, what they showed in their cave when he's working on the helmet and it shows the veins of cortosis in the wall, um, I mean, this kind of, I find it hard to believe this isn't the same, this planet, because, like, they've been pulling stuff from legends. They've pulled cortosis. They've pulled like, it makes sense. And on top of that, there's stuff about this planet which is like, knowledge of this planet fell into the hands of Tenebris and Plagueis because it was full of
So are we thinking
cortosis.
he could be Plagueis' apprentice before Sidious, or even maybe like a
So
Tenebrous
I think
apprentice?
I think it's I lean more to Plagueis because of the timeline. I think they would be really condensing stuff if it was Tenebris, like he was Tenebris's apprentice.
Did I not see something online though that Tenebrous, while Plagueis was his main apprentice, was there not maybe that he had a secret second apprentice?
I mean, they all have multiple apprentices.
So he could
Um,
be Tenebrous, but
it
not be before Plagueis, so to speak.
could be. I I'm thinking timeline wise, um, because of the whole, like, Plagueis being interested in extending life and this whole idea that he knows how to manipulate life. This idea that the witches then learned how to. It's some similar themes. I wouldn't be surprised if this is actually a mix of the two theories that have been going on about him being Plagueis' apprentice, and then people like after last week were like, "Oh my god, is this Ren?" I actually think it's both. I think they're weaving them
I
together.
I think he could be Ren, but before Ren. So you know how like every time there's a major order starts, the person who actually starts it is normally not the person who started it. I
Ye-
think he could be the person who taught Ren, and then Ren created the.
So I think it could still be Ren, and he started the order, but obviously, like the idea of the Knights of Ren is that name then passes on to the leader who holds the
Hmm.
lightsaber. So it could be like he could be the original Ren, who then the lightsaber becomes named after. Whether like the full-on Knights of Ren starts from him, or if he just sort of starts the ball rolling and then it develops into. But I think the idea that like he talks about he was a Jedi, which Osha's like, oh, I don't know you. He's like, well, it was a long, long time ago. Then he talks about the scar on his back, which
Yeah,
we'll
it's
we'll get to about who did the scar, but
yeah.
he
It don't look like just a straight lightsaber. I'm gonna say that.
no, he talks about for that someone tossed him aside. I think that's actually different to him leaving the Jedi. I think they're tossed to the side. Could be that he was like Plagueis' apprentice, didn't necessarily maybe agree or tried to do something, and Plagueis tossed him aside and went off to find a new apprentice. Him being tossed aside, but still has all these things that he's clearly learned from some Sith master, like things about the dark side and how to harness it. He's obviously learned that from somebody. And then the way that he also talks about, like when he says those things about anger, desire, and stuff, and Osha goes, "Oh, that's the path to the dark side," and he just says, "Ah, semantics," meaning like his view of it is like, yeah, sure, there's all these different words for it. It's just the Force, because the Knights of Ren call the Force the Shadow, so they use different
Oh, do
terms again.
they?
So like his perspective of like it's all just the Force. It's like it's got different names, whatever you want to call it. There is no one set way. Feels very like set up for Knights of Ren. And this idea with the cortosis, it's like it almost feels like they're kind of tying the two things together, like where the origins of Knights of Ren came from, and tying them into Plagueis.
It
But the scar, definitely not a normal lightsaber, definitely
that
a
is
whip.
the fact that we finally get the whip lightsaber
Yeah.
reveal in the same episode. We see these scars. Come on, we said, oh, Queermere being the stranger seems a little bit obvious. Now that we know that's definitely the case, I'm not baiting myself into thinking it's a red herring again. That bitch did that shit. She's been sus as fuck since early on in the season. We've not been sure of her the whole time. We're like, what's she up to? She's gonna realize that this is all her fault, and she's gonna cover it up, and that's why nothing ever comes out.
I think at some point she's obviously had a run in with him. Clearly, maybe thought he was dealt with. Maybe now realizing she's got the set, like because they went to obviously the scene of the fight. She clearly sensed what had gone down there using that shit the Jedi do, where they can kind of almost sense the memories of an area. She is maybe sensed something similar that she knows, which if she's done that scar to him, she'd recognize that like it's like hitting that memory of like, I know this force like fingerprint, so to speak. Um yeah, very sus. Also, could so I have a fit like we know that Vanestra she's called. I finally remembered
Mhm.
it. I made a note this week because I was like every week I keep forgetting her name. Um we know that her character is like really fairly old, like that race.
Yes,
And the way that Kymer talks about how he was a Jedi long, long ago, could it be that he was her Padawan?
I think that's the
But
case.
I think you've got to like if he was if he betrayed the Jedi, he would have been very well remembered. We know this is a time where not everybody that starts on the path of being a Padawan ends up completing. Look at Osha. She was essentially she walked away, but essentially was pushed away by the Jedi.
And he's very well aware of that, so he probably experienced the same thing.
Yeah, which would then make him very forgettable to the Jedi because it's like, oh, it's just someone that failed to harness the Force. We let him go. Doesn't matter. Forget about him. Then maybe went on and stumbled across a new master who was like, oh, I'll show you the true ways. Look, you're just a vulnerable ex-Padawan. Let me teach you how this
I've
shit
been
works.
exactly where you've been.
Mm. But
Cult,
yeah,
cult ass hard sell.
I think Vanestra's gonna try and cover. She's not gonna want this to go higher. Um, Also, a fun thing I found out by looking stuff up: the whole thing about her not liking hyper jumps and getting sick. That's apparently in the books from when she was a younger character. Because
Yeah, okay.
back when she was a young character was when they were just learning hyper jump routes, so they weren't as like
Smooth.
smooth and well done. So obviously, like she's just developed this like
Well,
fear of
who is it?
flying. People that don't like
There's another.
turbulence.
There's another. Is it Qui-Gon who doesn't like hyper jumps as well?
Oh, possibly. I think some, yeah, it's like anything with travel. Like
Yeah.
some people get
Some
motion
people
sickness, some
get
people,
seasick. I
yeah,
get massively seasick. I'm finding cars and planes. Put me on a boat and I feel like I'm gone.
yeah.
Like I
So
can't do it.
I like that they kept that little
Yeah.
detail.
The thing
I,
I'm really enjoying about this series is every week when there's like, ooh, what is that?
mm,
You get to see all the Legends fans who are like
mm,
actually just good Star Wars fans. Like, oh, this is what this is. And then the next week they tell you in the episode. So they're giving the Legends fans a chance to like give the information to the community. And then if you don't see that, you get told next week. So like
well, yeah,
last week, I was like, what the fuck is that helmet? You're like,
yeah.
that's cortosis. I'm like, sweet. This week, if I
He
didn't have
explains it.
this, I would have still found out that it was cortosis.
Fun fact: him mentioning that the Jedi use it in the sensory helmets, that's completely new.
Oh, really?
They've come up with
I
that,
love the sensory
which
helmet, by the way.
I don't hate that idea because someone I saw was like, "Oh, this explains why they were more than happy to give younglings a lightsaber right in front of their face because they've got a helmet on that will just short it out if they hit themselves." Which it
Um,
kind of makes sense that the Jedi would make use of this metal in some way.
I've for the longest time I've always thought if these sensory helmets that just like make it difficult to do anything or how you train, surely there's got to be some psycho out there who like does like almost like Donnie Yen starts like I'm one with the force is one
Yeah,
with me, and that's exactly what he
yeah.
does, and it's
Oh,
such a cool idea.
I
Which
love the
also makes
way.
his movements and how snappy he is with the
Mm,
helmet on make even more sense because he can't really see.
I liked how when he was like obviously repairing it and explaining what it was. Um, Again, showing how like it's brittle, it has to be keep being repaired because it's not meant for just armor. Um, yeah, when OSHA then puts it on and there's like no eye slits because it's like I kind of presumed there was ice, like a very small eye slit, and then she puts it on, there's like
The
nothing, and
tiniest amount.
you're like, wait, he just did that whole fight blind, like no eyesight, like no visual. It was all pure force, and
Yeah,
it's like,
genuinely terrifying.
oh shit. um,
Did you
the
see the toy version of that helmet sold out basically instantly? Like the
oh
$250
that is,
model of that
that doesn't
helmet
surprise me.
got it's the dopest helmet ever, and I would also like a sensory deprivation helmet, please. Not because I'm a Jedi, because I'm probably autistic. And I feel like it would be nice.
um, Also, Sol, I can't tell if his Sol is being sus or is still trying to save May or protect May
I really do not know.
because it's like
I really don't know.
on one hand he's coming across very sus at times and to like hyper jump away and like and turn off the like tracker.
Yeah.
Yeah, very sus. But then also if you look at it at the point of view like he's still trying to maybe like get May on his side. He knows that if he let the Jedi go, they just blame her for everything and like clear like his performance of like showing the grief he was going through of like losing all of his squad was so well performed.
Yes. And like it's also it works in a really good way because a lot of people after last week's episode, and we're not going to give the haters too much attention. But like all these Jedi's are known to like sense the dark side. You could see that being a legitimate complaint against this. Like, how does he not know the difference between the two from the Force? But we know the Force requires concentration and focus. When you're grieving all the people that have just died, you're not going to be able to stay centered and focused enough to
Well,
notice that the identical twin has a different aura.
yeah. Also, I will say one thing, they were careful with it. There was a massive tell that he just, like, she has the huge forehead tattoo. Like, if one slip
Yeah, but
from
they do have
her,
like a long
oh no, I know,
fringe.
but one slip from her and she's her whole gig's up.
Mm.
He obviously clocks on sooner than she realizes, though. Um, I get the sense that around when um, she comes back with Pip, that's when he senses something's weird, and I think he realizes that it's not actually Osha. The whole Basil and Pip attacking her felt like a Home Alone skit, like the oil in the eye and
So
the
much.
scream, the way she screamed.
Yeah.
Also, Basil doing that what, and not doing anything.
I find it so funny that she didn't just punt him as well. She kind of acted like Osha would, which I was kind of like, I'm sorry, were you so in character you forgot you were May? Like, why are you putting up
It was
with
just like
this?
he does this like spin around. It's like you could, like you say, you could just punt him. Like,
I need 10 series, 24 episodes, an hour-long episode each week of the adventures of Pip and Basil. Just
um,
240 hours of them doing weird shit.
so I think next week Sol was obviously like it ends with Sol about to obviously explain things. Um, you've got Venestra's going back to decide what the fuck to do.
Yeah.
Um, and then you've got Osha's being seduced by Mr. Muscle himself. Um,
Yes.
I think next week, either we're gonna get it like fully just an episode of Sol explaining things and we have flashbacks or a new perspective of things, or I wonder if Kaime was there at the temple, maybe we get like him telling Osha what happened, Sol telling May, and we get like a full picture from both those perspectives of what went on. But I do think next week is we are finally going to find out what went down, um, which is then going to reveal who's hid shit, who's sus as fuck. And unfortunately, I still think Sol is not safe.
There's something ain't adding up, and I don't know if it's just like he just feels so guilty because he didn't stop something, or if he
Mm.
actually did something bad.
I wonder if Vanestra knew what went down and helped cover it up. Sol's gonna have this like moment of like we need to finally come clean, and she's gonna be like no, and either kill him or
Imagine
imagine she kills him to cover it up so it doesn't get out. I also
yeah,
wonder if Kaime gives a bit more of a skewed perspective again for Osha. Maybe they come because May knows where that planet is, so she's probably going to end up. They're probably going to end up going there.
do we know for sure that May knows that
That's
planet?
where when they're on the beach and he's talking to her
Oh,
back
is
in
that
like
definitely the same place?
yeah, I'm pretty sure that's the same planet.
Oh, okay, cool, that's fine then.
Which means, well, presume unless it was Kaime that knew how to get there, and she doesn't actually know the exact like location of
Yeah,
it. I don't know, but I wonder if there's going to be a situation where now May is trying to be like, no, he's seducing you. Osha doesn't believe her. Still, like she thinks she's still lying to her about everything. One of them ends up killing the other, maybe, and that's like slip into dark side more.
I'm really, really curious to see how this ends
I
because it's got wild in like the least predictable way.
We've got what 2 episodes left, so we've got Next episode's definitely going to be flashback, maybe information on who covered stuff up. And I think the last episode is going to be some loose ends are going to get killed and it's going to be covered up. And that's how it's like lost to the Jedi that this guy exists.
Yeah.
But yeah,
For
so good though.
sure. These last two episodes are going to go off.
Yeah. I'm ready to have like mind blown and be like, oh shit, we did not see that at all.
Absolutely 100% that is what's going to happen.
Yeah.
Right. The Boys, episode 6. Right.
Okay.
Do you remember in season 3 when Herogasm came out?
Yeah.
I said everyone was saying this was going to be the most insane thing ever,
Yeah.
and I feel like it ended up actually disappointing a little bit because it wasn't that it wasn't that ridiculous. It wasn't anything we kind of hadn't already seen before.
Mm-hmm.
This episode is the most insane episode they've done.
It was, it was wild.
Do you know what? It was giving season 1 energy.
Yeah,
Because
like
to an extent, they'd stopped parodying as much.
yeah,
That they'd stopped like deliberately kind of being like, oh yeah, Homelander's evil Superman. Oh yeah, A-Train's the Flash. They tried to like move away from that a little bit.
yeah.
This episode, they were like, yeah, Tech Knight is Batman.
Oh
They
yeah.
didn't even. They're like Web Weaver
Well-
is Spider-Man, obviously. Like they didn't like do some of the stuff they'd done more recently. Where they're like, it's the same kind of idea, but we're doing our own direction with it. They literally went, Tech Knight is what Batman would really be if he was a rich white boy.
Well, it's like we sort of joked about it last week because obviously they did the whole Vought 93 or whatever it was. And some of the film titles for Tech Knight were very like Dark Knight-esque, taking the piss a bit. And we're like,
Yeah.
oh, they're really like taking the mick out of that. Wasn't expecting it to be like fully Batman piss take.
Yeah. So, I mean, where do we fucking start with this episode? Holy shit.
I mean, I think it's safe to say Huey has some pretty serious mental trauma now to go through that right after losing your dad. Like,
I'm gonna. The show is meant to be, for the most part, lighthearted. And the ridiculousness of the situation does make it funny. But fuck me, that must be legitimately traumatizing for Huey as a character.
yeah. Oh yeah.
We know Ashley a freaky gal. We've been seeing that for a few seasons.
Yeah.
We know Tech Knight is a freaky boy. We saw that in Gen V.
Yeah.
This was unhinged. And you know what? When he was like dressed up as like when they went to get Web Weaver's suit, so that Huey could sneak in as him, I was like, I wonder where this is going to go. Like, how is Homelander not just going to like hear his voice and recognize it, or peek under the mask and see him straight away? Because obviously the mask isn't made of nickel, so
yeah.
And then he starts leading him away, and I'm like, the fuck's about to happen?
Yeah. When he was like, oh, so I'm so glad you've come and considered being my sidekick. I was like, this is a bit of a weird reason for him to be invited. And then when they were like going down, I was like, when he was going to take her down to the cave, I was like, does he realize and he's about to off him down here? Because he's like picked up on it's not actually. And then, oh no, it's like we're finding out what his sidekick has to do.
Yeah.
Ooh, this is not just a superhero sidekick.
No.
Yeah.
A lot of people on Twitter are also loving that Web Weaver's safe word was Zendaya.
Yeah.
Just
So on the nose.
such an unnecessarily funny line. But then again, with the season 1 flashback feel, with Homelander getting his fix of breast milk once again.
Yeah. Firecrackers just moved to #1 instantly. Purely because she got Homelander the milk.
The fact that she went on a drug rage, like, I want to know how she worked out that he's into milk like that, first and foremost. Second, why a drug regime to induce lactation is wild, and I don't even know if that's a real thing, and I don't want to know.
I don't know, but the way
crazy.
she's also like, it increases the size of your heart slightly, which obviously, like, real life, if your heart increases in size. Like, that's not a good thing.
No.
You're asking for a heart. So it's like she's risked that purely because do you know what it'll be? She said, didn't she, like when she first joined, she was like, "Oh, I'll do anything," and he kind of just shrugged it off. She's obviously then gone away and figured out what he's into to prove herself somehow, or she's got that information off someone else. Like maybe Sage has put it
Yeah.
in a motion. Um, but yeah, that like he's gonna be wrapped around her finger now without him realizing he's wrapped around her finger.
Yeah.
When she realizes she can use that to control him, and she's not like when she goes past that point of like she's doing it because she thinks, oh, this will get him to like me, to the point when she realizes this will control him, she'll get a power trip, and then that'll cause some issues, I think.
Absolutely.
Uh,
It's
I
just this episode was
were you like
unhinged,
me?
man.
Were you like me when Sage got shot in the head? And you were like, she's not dead.
Yeah, like we know her brain heals, so I'm like, right. So is this gonna be she's like out for ages, and then it gets revealed at the end of the episode she's fine because like it just took a while to
Hmm.
heal, or is it gonna be she just tanks it? But
I wasn't expecting to get up so quick. I will say that,
yes,
but
what I'm
I
more curious to know is because like she's really careful with
the
the
lobotomy.
lobotomies and stuff. Is this gonna take like is she still gonna be a dumbass for like the entire next episode and then she comes back in episode 8? Or is it just gonna be her brain heals, but like her skull doesn't, so she just has like an open hole in her head forever? Like, I'm really curious to see how they handle this. Because it's
I
been made very clear, like, she isn't bulletproof, she doesn't heal apart from her brain. What is the rules here?
Do you know what I think it'll be? She'll still be this level of dumb for like the first half till they realize they need to take the bullet out. They'll take the bullet
Uh,
out, stitch up the hole or whatever, and then her brain, by the end of the episode, her brain will finish healing. She'll suddenly just be like, they fucking, and then she's going to then obviously remember everything properly and be like, then explain what actually fucking happened. Um,
Genuine question.
mhm.
Do we think that because obviously like she targets her frontal lobe to relax, do you think with where they shot her they could use that as an excuse to maybe make her either more sinister or more sympathetic as a character?
I don't think they do. I feel like the reason she does the frontal lobe and does it so carefully is because she wants it just to be relaxed for an hour or so, not really like fuck with her too much.
Hmm.
That's like just random, no control over what so it's like it's she has no like process that's just happened or anything. So I just think it'll be like it'll take way longer for her to be back to her normal self,
Mm,
which we'll see how Homelander manages without her in full cognitive mode.
yes. Well, I mean, we
um,
saw how that goes, and just
but
touched
yeah,
on that quickly. When Homelander's addressing all of the rich fucks and the powerful fucks to try and get them on his cause, my favorite thing they routinely do with Homelander in this thing is they put him in a villain situation where they're going to give their big speech and they're going to rally the troops,
yeah,
and he like swells up with confidence and thinks, "I've got this." But then he starts talking and realizes, "Oh, I'm actually a dumbass who doesn't have a plan."
yeah.
And he starts losing the audience straight away, and he just looks around and he feels like a tiny little boy again.
Oh
And
yeah,
it's so funny because that's what Homelander isn't intelligent. Is he powerful? Yes, he's incredibly powerful. But guess what? He's not a thinker. That's why he needed Sage in the first place.
it's like he's like that person in um like a group presentation, and then the person that did all the work is ill and not in for the day, and they come up and they're like, "So yes, so this is what we're doing," and they have no clue what the work actually was because they did none of it, and then they're like, get asked a question like, "I don't have the answer to that because I didn't do any of the work," and then the fact that Vanessa
Victoria.
Victoria then steps up and rallies them because she's obviously a political figure, so they give her a bit more
Hmm.
respect. Um, Wild that he is becoming America's Hitler with the
Yeah.
internment camps and preparing an army of superheroes, preparing a coup of the government. Like,
So I saw an interesting thing today, and it does apply to the story they're telling in The Boys. It also applies a little bit to real life if you pay any
mm,
attention to anything. Um, but they say history doesn't repeat itself, but it sure as shit rhymes.
mm,
Um, and that's exactly what it is.
hmm.
History rhymes, and that's exactly what we're seeing in this. Um,
Do you know
this
what
episode
be?
was just fucking bonkers.
Do you know what'd be hilarious if Homelander stages a riot on Capitol Hill?
Would they do that?
I think they would.
Yeah, they wouldn't be scared of a little January 6th situation.
No. Um. So, and the fact that we know this is currently around Christmas time
Hmm.
in the seat, like, because there's the different things have been going on, maybe just after Christmas.
Mm.
Yeah.
Well, we know it's that because it's election time, don't we? And they're still the elect.
Yeah, true.
Um,
So, uh,
it's
we also
crazy.
got Butcher finally realized that
Yes,
he's,
it finally dawned on him that he was
yeah,
having an angel and demon on the shoulder
yep.
situation.
Uh, I I don't think he uses the virus now,
Neither do I.
but I think he does something stupid instead.
I completely
I
agree.
think
I
he's
think
gonna
he
try and
shoots
get right.
himself up with some more temp V or something.
Either that or he's gonna try and again to get Ryan out, but be more forward about it. And maybe accidentally, I think that's gonna be the balance of does he catch Ryan at a point where he's now happy with his dad again and it pushes him away because he tries to force it too much?
Yeah.
Meaning that, like we said, next season he ends up having to go toe to toe with Homelander or something.
Hmm.
Uh,
Sorry, this
yeah.
episode just broke my fucking brain. Another crazy, unnecessary scene was Tech Knight revealing his family money comes from slave catching.
Oh yeah, just
And
right
just
to
the
A Train's
turning and
face.
staring at A Train. It's like,
He'd be
my
like,
family made their money from slave catching.
and the way he's like, "Oh, my granddad would have caught you eventually,"
Yeah,
and it's like,
crazy.
bruh.
Crazy. Put the man down on the spot. No one would blame you.
I feel like
I'm
A
love
Train's closer to flipping because
that redemption arc is cooking.
when he dropped Mother Milk off, and the kid's like, "Oh my god, a superhero," and he's actually helped someone for like legit. I think that kind of sunk in. He's like, "Well, you can actually save people and
You
do
can
good.
actually use your powers and do
Yeah,
good
you
and not
can
just for
actually be
profit.
a hero." And I think, yeah, I think he's also very scared that he's going to get caught out.
I've got a horrible feeling. We've got two
Mm.
episodes left. That is enough episodes to build A Train into completing his
Oh
redemption
no,
arc
he's going to die.
and then kill him off.
Yeah. Do you know what it's going to be? Say he's going to like try and make his exit, and Sage is going to tell Homelander that because she knows he was the leak and everything. She's just holding on to that. So I think she's gonna try and manipulate him to like use it against him, and he's still gonna want to dip out, and she's gonna tell Homelander. Oh, we also got Black Noir reveal.
Yeah, so it's the same actor who played Black Noir before.
Oh, but now we get to see his face.
Now we can just see his face and he gets to talk.
The fact that he also reveals he can fly is
Yes, that is so.
hilarious.
I think that's a nod to Black Noir being a Homelander clone in the comics because it's actually
Right,
really rare in the comics for Supes to be able to fly.
right, okay.
Like that's not common, as far as I know. So I think that was a bit of a nod to the whole idea of Noir being a Homelander clone. Noir was one of the few Supes that could fly, but he didn't actually fly because he was staying under the radar.
I love that he's just like, yeah, I've got a job somewhere else, and they're gonna let me fly.
Yeah. Did you know I can fly? Yes, we all know you can fly, but the old Noir can't, so you can't.
Also,
Also,
deep,
the
deep,
explaining Noir's motivations
yeah,
is
revealing that he
crazy.
just got horny for killing people.
Yeah. He just loved killing so much he couldn't stop getting an erection after it. Is just a crazy line.
It probably isn't even true. It's probably just some of the Deep's made up because he's trying to claim that he was best friends with Noir.
Yeah, I don't feel like Noir would have liked Deep even remotely.
We know Noir was just mentally fucked up because he saw
Yeah.
comic characters. Oh, the thing about it's like, why did he have just a box of all these drawings of
One of the characters,
yeah,
Bucky Brewer or
Bucky,
whatever the
yeah,
fuck it was.
Bucky
Bucky
characters.
Beaver.
Yes, that's it.
Yeah, incredible. I there is a lot left to happen in these 2 episodes, and I don't know like how far they want to take it before season 5, but there is definitely a gut punch waiting to happen here, and I don't know exactly where it's going to take place.
Oh, I've just Kamiko lost her phone.
Yes,
That's gonna come back and bite them.
yes,
Also, I feel so bad for her though, with Frenchie not wanting to see her.
yeah. It's
Yeah.
rough. I love Kamiko so much. She might actually be the only
Using the
like
books to
good character.
talk was so good.
Kamiko might be the only like good character in the show.
She's like neutral because she still
But
does
like,
some fucked up shit.
what
But
what's she done that's bad to like
well, I
people who
mean,
didn't deserve it?
oh no, everyone does. It's that neutral of like she will do what needs to be done to the people who deserve it, but by like the law, she's not seen as good
Yeah.
because
So what? She's chaotic good.
yeah, which is fine. Mm,
Whereas like Huey has done some things that he himself isn't proud of now. So he's not like fundamentally good. Annie's probably the next closest to good, but we
mm,
know she's done some dodgy shit. It's just it's buck wild out here. I cannot wait to see how these last 2 episodes go.
yeah.
The entire pacing of this episode was phenomenal.
Mm,
A lot of people, like rightly or wrongly, is irrelevant here. A lot of people are saying at times the boys this season has felt a little bit too on the nose with the policies and a little bit less of just the weird kooky stuff. And that is just because we're getting towards the end of a inherently political story.
yeah.
But to have one episode where they just go off the rails with batshit crazy stuff again,
Yep.
it honestly threw me, and I was like, wait, what is happening? We're just cutting between the most random shit ever, and it does make sense narratively, but I'm just like, why is Huey getting his feet tickled by the CEO of Vault while she rubs one out?
Oh,
Like, what's going on?
honestly, I can't imagine anything like worse.
Craziness.
Yeah, definitely some trauma.
Anyway, yes, for sure.
Speaking
The
of
Bear,
trauma,
The Bear season 3.
oh
First and foremost, I know you like binging.
yes,
However,
I still did it in 2 sittings. I will say.
my counterpoint for binging, I think, is perfectly encapsulated with The Bear season 3. Each
Yeah,
episode of this is so emotionally exhausting
yeah.
that trying to binge this is actually quite hard. Like, I'm not someone like I make no secret of it. I'm not a particularly emotional person.
Hmm.
For whatever reason, that's something for an overpaid therapist to work out in about 20 years' time. But I'm not very good at showing my emotions at all. This show beat the shit out of me with season 3.
Bro, I I binged it in 2 sittings. I probably could have done it in 1, but yeah, it was like, and don't get me wrong, like I binged season 1 and 2 of The Bear because I only started watching when season 2 had just come out. So it's like I binged it pretty not like across like a week. So I did that pretty quick, and that was intense. Like, oh, that was intense. But yeah, it's this one more than ever. I feel like hit from so many different angles because every
Yes.
episode was just like a change of pace or change of like angle somehow. Um,
I'm going to say it. This is the greatest show of all time.
Yeah, I've got this is some of, if not the best TV show I think I've watched. The
And do you
only
know,
other show that has, like, hooked me so hard was Sons of Anarchy, but that's, like, a long show, and it's not nearly as, like, as captivating.
the only other shows that get put in a conversation of the greatest shows of all time, stuff like The Sopranos, Breaking Bad, The Wire, stuff like that.
Yeah.
What do they all have in common? They have to rely on crime and violence to get the emotional hooks into you
Yeah,
for you to go, wow, this is phenomenal.
true.
This show is doing it in a fucking kitchen in Chicago.
Yeah. That
Just
I've got
what?
the this season especially, like, I've said it about season 1 and 2, like, it's a great representation of kitchens, they've and what chefs do go through, like, stress-wise and stuff. This season felt almost just like a love letter to cooking and the craft. Like, episode 1, for the bear, was like a complete change of pace. It
Yeah,
was like,
we're not going to talk.
yeah, it was calm, and it showed, like, I loved that it showed, Carmy's, like, journey, because 'cause we'd obviously got some of that in the previous seasons. We saw him in the Intense restaurant. We know he worked at the, Olivia Colman's restaurant, I forget what that one was called.
Ever.
Ever. Like, we know he worked at those places, but we don't really know much else. Um, I love that it showed all these different places he worked at, where he learnt different things, went through different, and then you think, I I think that made it more painful to then see how he is now, because you're like, you went to some incredible restaurants that had incredible atmospheres. Unfortunately, the one where the guy was a prick to you and gave you, like, in this season he addresses it at the end, but, like, gave him mental health issues, unfortunately has shaped how he has become as a chef more than any of the others. But, like, that first episode just felt like such a celebration of the food.
It it was crazy. I'm not sure how I feel about Jeff Winger being so mean. Um, it's not very 6 seasons in a movie of him. What I will say is, I was delighted with the amount of Olivia Colman.
Oh, yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen of the podcast, you know how I feel about Olivia Colman.
Like,
me,
we
me and Jenna were sat there, especially in the last episode.
yeah, the funeral
And
dinner.
I was like, you know what? I love you more than anything in the entire world. But if Olivia Colman was 10 years younger, I'd take a punt. Because I can't believe she's not also one of the greatest people ever in real life. Because she just comes across with such sincerity. It's crazy.
That, like, we'll hold off, though, that last episode was such a
All
just
of them
such
were great, Hori. It's
yeah,
insane.
but, like, that
They
last
don't
episode
miss.
especially was, like, that dinner. But, like, we went from episode 1, which was, like, this beautiful, and then see episode 2, boom, we're back in the boys. The intensity hit instantly, and I'm like, "Oh, I'm stressed. I'm already stressed." This was too much. Like, the way they balanced that throughout the whole season was wild to me. There was a lot more of, like, they show, like, the bear has become known as intense, and it's like, somehow this season they've mixed in the calm, but in a
That
really good way.
Yeah, the non-negotiables debate lasting for an entire episode with other people coming in.
Yeah.
It's I am one of them dickheads who sits there and thinks I can write certain TV shows better than writers, and I'm like, it's not that difficult. I know you guys are more talented than me, but I feel like you're overcomplicating it.
Mm.
The Bear is actually a really good show to just remind me that I am not as talented as TV writers. Because my god, the writing for the show is phenomenal. The way they deal with the chef that we don't really know a lot about from Carmy's backstory, who like tells him about the Pope, the Pope tie on the
Oh,
chicken.
yeah, yeah, yeah. The one from the
That
French Laundry. I have a note
yeah,
on that somewhere.
that guy didn't feel like an actor reading a script. That
No,
interaction felt like you've stuck a camera in a kitchen where someone's teaching, because that felt like a conversation. It didn't feel like two actors reading lines. It was phenomenal writing. It was phenomenal acting. It's incredible how they managed to pull this off consistently, time and time again.
yeah, it was like I'm not even sure. There's got it almost felt like that was the chef that he went to learn the chef stuff
Do you know
before
what I
doing the
mean?
show.
The way he was speaking, it didn't feel like he was. It didn't feel like it was someone else's words. It felt like someone who was genuinely just teaching someone how to do something, which is
Yes.
really difficult to get across in a scripted
The
medium.
that's what I feel like that's what I was like, this whole season has felt like they have done it's been more than just, "This is a chef show," and, like, "This is just a restaurant running." It's like
Yeah,
the writers have wanted to show that being a chef is more than just running a restaurant or whatever. There's like there's so much love across every restaurant for this craft, from the sandwich shop to these Michelin star restaurants. Like, and how I loved how they talked. I can't remember which episode it was where they talked about legacy and how it's not actually about if it's a successful night of food and the dishes go well. It's actually those chefs that come in, learn from the best, they learn things, they move on to another restaurant, they learn stuff from there. Eventually, they open their own and they have like these parts from all the experiences. And it's that like legacy of spreading all of this, everyone's love for cooking and food and the experience of sharing that with people gets like spread into all these other restaurants because those people worked. Like, that's throughout the whole season, and they just did such a great job, like with that bit with the guy from the French Laundry, like showing like all Carmy's like different points where he was working at the different restaurants, doing the different um points of his career. Honestly, it's such a
what I'm
beautiful
about to
show.
say, I don't think is going to be the popular opinion.
Okay.
The best episode of this season is the Tina flashback episode.
Also,
And I
so
don't think it's going to be remembered as the best episode because it's not as critical to the narrative.
no,
But that episode is phenomenal.
the
It gives us so much about Tina as a person. Io directed it, the actress who plays Sydney. She directed that
there
episode,
we go.
which I also love because it plays it again. Like, it loops back around to that feeling in season 1 and 2 of Sydney developing or helping Tina
Well,
develop.
throughout the whole season, we see that like um Tina's just development in like we talked about it from season 2 when you'd watched it, and she like got to go learn to be a chef finally and go to culinary school, and like that development she'd had. This backstory just like
That
just added so much to that like joy for her.
insanity. Like I said, I'm not a particularly emotional person. That conversation between her and Mickey,
Yes. And the
I,
whole
I
loop
was I was
around
on the
back to
brink that
episode
entire time.
1 where that's when he shows Tina the photo, because you see that in episode 1 and you think, oh, she's already working there. And then it's like in that when they did that, I was like, holy shit, they've just looped this back. But
Yeah, it's so
one one
so good.
old beef was an absolute vibe.
Yes,
Such a great place, and they're bringing that back with the beef window, getting the two. And I love that they brought them back for I forget his name, the older guy. He's like he was happy to do that, but then he's realizing he's struggling with it because it's a lot.
Ibra bringing in the old cashiers to just run the thing so
Yes,
he can just make the sandwiches is brilliant. Because his thing, I saw some people talking. It's like, I love the bear. It's a great show, but if I was in my neighborhood and the best sandwich shop in the place
yeah,
got taken over by the owner's little brother who turned it into like a Michelin style restaurant, I'd be pissed.
yeah, oh yeah, and like I love that they like verbalized that as well. Like they were saying to like he said to Carmy, didn't he? He's like the locals are talking shit. Like
We
they're
need
not
to get
happy.
the bear open. Yeah,
Yeah, and he's like, oh, okay, yeah. But like you saw it when those two came in and started running, and things were running smoothly. You saw on his like he smiles as he's doing the sandwiches because like, okay, this is what he missed. Now it's just in like a better, well-run system.
see, this is what this show does so fucking well with the human experience. And I talk about this all the time, and I always feel like a pompous prick when I do it. But TV media is about the human experience. It
Yeah.
absolutely is. And I know on this show or on this podcast we talk more about superhero stuff, which doesn't as obviously represent the human experience. It's a bit more different, but the concept's still the same. But a lot of this show is about don't be afraid to try new things and go out for change,
Mm.
and don't be afraid to reinvent. This season has also gone, okay, but you don't have to reinvent yourself every day. And if there is something you truly love doing, don't stop doing it. And
Yeah.
that's what this show is actually about. Or what this season focuses more on. It's like, yes, we've told you that change is good and you shouldn't be scared of it, but don't change so much that you literally don't recognize yourself, which is what Carmy's doing by changing the menu every day. And also, if you love something and you're truly passionate about it, like Ibra is about the beef, you
Mm.
don't have to stop doing it. Find a way to keep doing it.
Well, it's wild. Like you've also got to remember, like, so that episode 2 when he's like non-negotiables and he's like already redeveloped the whole thing. It's like this is 2 days after he was locked in the fridge or whatever. It's like, oh,
Yeah,
it's, so they've come back in. They're like, right, let's get. Hopefully, we can do things smooth now. And Carly's like, no, we're locking this shit in. Like this complete, and he's gone like full psycho mode.
mm-hmm.
And that's him show like that's them showing us his trauma come back. Because immediately as a viewer, you're just being like that guy that you hated and ran away from, and that kitchen that you ran away from. And obviously it all comes like full loop, I think, in the last episode when he faces him and he's like, I hate it. The guy is a prick. Asshole.
Absolute cunt. Yeah.
Had some slightly valid points though, which really irritated me because he's like, I gave you great leadership. I gave you like all the and like don't get me wrong, yeah, he did come out with like as an amazing chef. He is a great leader. Like he has that like level that you need to have. Unfortunately, he got it through like the worst possible method. But I think Carmy
It's
like something clicked in that like
I
final episode.
But also throughout the season, we've seen Carmy, because of his trauma,
Mm,
impart that trauma onto other members of the team.
yeah.
Sydney's having panic attacks, and she's
Yes.
starting to grow to resent Carmy, the same way
Yes.
Carmy feels about Jeff Winger. I forget his actual name.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, Marcus, this is flying under the radar, but it's going to be a problem. Marcus is turning up hours before everyone else and working and doodling like a madman. Right now, it's just coming across as, oh, he's inspired by Carmy and trying to be creative like Carmy, but we know where that leads.
So what I think Marcus is in that early stage of like he's found that like Carmen had already like helped push him to find that love for baking and stuff. I think this season he's like really finding it and he's using it as a way to obviously handle losing his mum and like finding a way to put that into his this crap like and he wants to learn and he wants to develop himself. He is Carmy in episode 1 when we're seeing all the flashbacks of him in these different kitchens, learning things, loving it. I think what's going to happen, like you say, Sid's already past that. She's getting the trauma put onto her, and she's developing that same thing that Carmy hate, like you were saying, hated of his chef. We see through this whole season Sid struggling to want to sign the agreement. She's obviously
Yeah.
now in. She gets offered this other job. Then in like episode 10, they're all talking about like they went on to other kitchens, they then went on to do other things, people had experiences and they left. Everyone talked about their experiences. I feel like was adding to her being like, maybe I'm not wrong for wanting to move on. Maybe that is actually what I'm supposed to. And I think because Kami's been a prick, a psycho this season, he's pushing her away. I think he's clicked now at the end, but it's going to be too late. He's already caused the damage to Sydney and she'll want to move away. And maybe they'll rekindle that friendship in a healthier way. But I think he's going to flip and then he's going to realize before he does it to Marcus, and Marcus is going to get the actual good experience of like, like Carmy got at the forever and whatnot.
And this is another thing we've talked about. I've been very clear that it's really uncommon in shows to see a genuinely beautiful friendship between a male and female character, because
Mm,
once there's a natural chemistry there, writers want to make it romantic. And them refusing to make it romantic actually makes this hit harder, because you're not going through the normal what you're used to of, oh no, there's conflict in a loving relationship, but we know it will get resolved. We know friendships end, and we don't romanticize friendships in the same way of always assuming they find a way, which means it's a lot scarier a prospect that Sydney might leave and not come back. That as like someone who watches a lot of TV, which a lot of people are, you're conditioned when you see a couple have if like headbutting moments, you're conditioned to go, they'll work it out. So you're not as scared. When it's a friendship, it feels a lot scarier because you're like, wait, in TV shows they do end friendships.
Yeah. And I think maybe
Which I think adds that layer of intensity to it.
Yeah, the way that she was avoiding signing it, everything is like, you can see it's like she's feeling like Carmy's just making all the decisions. He's making the dish decisions. I think the last episode has got her more conflicted, which is why she ends up having the panic attack at the little after party.
Yeah.
Because she was hearing all these stories of people talking about, yeah, they keep like, the chef kept turning down our dish ideas. And then eventually when they agree to it and you see it goes out and they'll take credit, but like, your parts on that dish, I think helps shift her perspective a bit. But then it's like, she's also getting all these stories of like how people developed going to other places. She's obviously in this like unknown.
Absolutely.
I think Carmy will click. I love Unk. I love how Unk is being this father figure, and I don't think he takes Computer's advice and shuts it down. I know he's saying he will if the review's bad. I think Carmy will do something that shows like he's realized he's fucking up.
I think a life insurance check for Marcus's mum hits the table, and Marcus fronts it.
Oh, maybe. I just think Unk is showing his soft side about how like he feels like he didn't do enough and stuff for the boys. I think he's and
But
the
I
way he
think
was,
he also genuinely believes that they can make this work if they have
yeah,
enough time.
yeah, and he believes in like giving them the chance to do that dream. He obviously like is showing that soft side, which I think is really also again great. Like with the what we've said with all the characters, like he was shown as this almost like mob style uncle who
He
had.
is absolutely a criminal. Let's be completely clear here.
We don't know that.
No, he absolutely is. Also, sorry, when there was the delivery arriving in the second episode, he goes, "What's that? Nunya? What's Nunya? None your business."
He
So
did,
good.
he just absolutely like. I do love how much he was like giving Carmy shit constantly, but then also
This is,
showing the soft side, which is like,
and this is the thing. This is why the dialogue works so perfectly because it's actually not intelligent dialogue in the sense of it's not written to sound like it's been written. It's written to sound natural.
yes,
We have all been hit by a joke like that. Like that's what happens from especially from like older parental figures. They're the kind of jokes they hit you with. That's a dad joke.
oh yeah, and it's like when he comes into that as well, he's like, "What are you lot all arguing about?" Because he's like, he's just, and when he's like, "Why are you here?" and he's like, "Maybe because I put like 80, like maybe because I
Yeah.
fronted the cost of this. I'm
Yeah.
here because I
Maybe
want
I
to."
fucking own the
Yeah,
place. Yeah.
because, and it's like, and then the bit later when he's like dropping the golf clubs off, and he's like, "Oh, have you seen my like 9-iron? Is that what's been shoved up your ass the whole time?" And then they're like, "Oh yeah, I'm totally fine, not worried about the review at all." And then they go, "Yeah, I've been thinking about the review like nonstop."
Non-stop. Yeah.
And then open up
Um
to each other a bit. I thought it was really good.
this this show, if
Cousin.
it can if it can keep up this pace for 5 seasons and end, it will unequivocally go down as the greatest show of all time in my mind. And I know in the past I've always admitted to being a recency bias fanatic. I think I'm on the money this time.
Oh, this is like this season has just the fact that this is the first season, and I feel like they've fucking elevated it so much again. Is wild to me. Can we talk about how Cousin has the best fucking takes? Like his disgust to tip culture I think is brilliant. And then his what was the other? He had another take. Oh, the whole like the idea that a restaurant should we should be putting ourselves through this for a star that was made up by some tire company because they wanted you to drive more and sell tires. Like his anti-capitalism sort of like takes, I'm loving.
Yeah. I would actually be more than happy. And you know what? Charlie Storner, I think is the writer. I forget his name though. So forgive me if I got it wrong. I love your work. Season 4 needs to just be 10 30-minute episodes, 8 30-minute episodes of Carmy doing a couples counseling session with each of the main characters. An episode with Cousin, an episode with Io, an episode with all of the facts, an episode with Sugar. We'll get onto that in a
Yeah.
second. But like, or even just like one episode where like we do like a joint therapy session. Because brilliant storytelling to be told there, but Carmen needs to sort his shit out because I love the dude, but he's ruining everything by refusing to talk.
I think he needs to talk to Cousin at least. He needs to talk to Sugar. He needs to ring his mum and face that. And then he also needs to face Claire Bear. And I
I
think
need him to
those,
sort all the other relationships first,
yeah.
because then he will actually be ready to fix it with Claire there.
Also, can we talk about how like fuck the feels for Cousin with the whole when his daughter's like, "Oh, you're alone," and it's like you can tell that was like a knife in the heart for him, and then
Mm-hmm.
him like struggling with that of like seeing his ex happy and obviously happy for that, and then also being like, I love how they're showing what like a healthy co-parent situation can look like. And like the development from him being a shitty co-parent into realizing like his character growth to then be like he is happy about it and then even willing to step back because he doesn't want to mess with the kid. Hit the
I
heart, man.
I do have to give his ex some shit though for putting you in the position of coming to her wedding. That's a dick move.
It's tough.
The
Be-
man was still wearing his wedding ring.
well, yeah, but like I get because his daughter might have if she's wanted him there. It's that thing of like it is a tough
Just
thing that probably parents do have to deal with,
yeah,
and
just it's
it's
crazy. Don't
it's
ever invite
almost
your ex to your wedding.
or at least like have a good conversation about it
Yeah.
than
Don't
just
put any pressure on them to come to your wedding.
yeah. Um, honestly,
Now one of my favorite kind of unnecessarily favorite moment in the entire show. Something
mm.
I didn't know I needed, but was a genius decision.
I know what's coming.
The reveal of Sammy Fack being John Cena.
Yeah,
Because it was kind of a nothing introduction as well. They didn't do the thing a lot of shows do when there's a cameo and just like sit the camera on the person for a second to like wait for the applause to die down. He's come in and I'm like, that's John fucking Cena. John Cena's a fact, and when all the other facts have been
mentioned.
of a no, but when all the other facts he's like seen on screen have been a very distinct style of person and not being overly muscular, not being particularly tall.
Yeah.
For him to come in just jacked to the nines,
Yeah,
is so funny. That casting decision is genius, and once again, Dwayne the Rock Johnson falls further down in the wrestler acting rankings.
Yeah. Oh yeah,
because Dave Bautista and John Cena could do this role. Dwayne the Rock Johnson could not.
Honestly, I don't think anyone other than John Cena could have done that. It was perfect.
It was phenomenal.
But like, obviously through the season 1, we had obviously just Matty's character, who obviously I'm very biased to the fact because I love Matty Matheson. I think he's incredible and so funny. And it's like him then bringing his like brother or cousin. What's Ted?
I don't know. I think it's his brother.
I think his brother. But like then we've got two facts always there. And it's like such a funny dynamic between the two of them. Like the most comedic. And it's great because you've obviously got the intensity of Carmy, and then meanwhile you've got Matty going, well, yeah, me and Carmy are best friends, so I know what's best for him. And we're like, and then the whole constant thing where they're like, yeah, okay, no. And they're just repeating, it's like they know what they're thinking.
The facts are phenomenal. They are the only characters that I'm like, I need a spin-off for.
I need more of them. I just want.
Keeping
I
up,
want. Keep
keeping
giving me
up with the
more.
facts.
The,
I hope before this show ends,
mm,
we get a reveal of what their sister did to piss Sugar off so much. Because
yes.
Sugar calls them love and like mothers the facts. She
Yeah.
adores the facts. They mentioned that their sister wants to come for dinner, and she's like, she can go die in a hole.
Yeah. She's like,
I
what
want
did
to
she
know what
do?
she did.
But yeah, Sammy being like, I love that they're like, oh, we need some help to get the floors buffed. Like, we're not gonna do this in time. Ring Sammy, and they're like, okay, another fax coming. Here we go. This is gonna be chaos. And then Big Musty Guy comes in and he's like, assesses the job perfectly. Right? Yep. We've got Yep. Yep. Okay. Let's get to work. Let's do this. And then there's
Also, the
smoking.
haunting is so good.
Oh, I want to not usually want to steal something from a show and feel like force it into my life, but I need to use haunting in real life. I need to make that a
It's so
thing
good.
in our friend
Also,
group or something.
and the beauty is, it was introduced as a joke, but it was then used as a theme thematically.
Yes. And well, it's like it was a joke, it was a quick thing that like Sammy's like, give me the password, I'm gonna haunt you. And you're like, okay, this is just like cousins, brothers, whatever, fucking with each
Yeah.
other. Then there's the story of, oh well, Uncle Gary and Dad, he haunted him for 13 years or whatever it was. And like he did some wild shit to him. And you're like, this is just some like next level pranking, essentially. Like this is just
it's crazy.
to then they turn it into like a metaphor for life with like
Yeah.
and they're like, Carmy, you're being haunted.
Yeah.
It's Claire,
Claire
it's
Bear's
Claire,
haunting you.
Claire Bear's haunting you. That's why everything's going wrong. And then it's like, wait, what? How have you made this philosophical, like, like a life thing? But yeah, I need more facts. I need more of them.
A
Also,
new FAC a season. A FAC a season.
the
6
thing
facts and a movie.
the thing I love the most is knowing Matty Matheson is a chef and a great chef, but his character not being able to serve food and has no clue how to do it. The walking out with his soup and taking it
good.
literally that he pours it in front of him and he walks back in and he's just like, and that's the soup poured in front of you. I take this away now, and he just walks away. Walks back in and he's just stood there.
And it's below the camera. And I'm
Yeah.
like, why are we seeing this? And he's like, okay, have a nice meal. And I'm like, okay,
then he
why are we watching this? And then you see the tray come back in the shot. I'm like, what are you doing?
I was like, and he just walks, and he's like so stuck because he's like so focused on what he's doing. And he walks back in and he just stood there, and Carmy's like, "Why are you
what the fuck
here?"
are you doing?
To which then cousins
and the
cousins
cousin
seen him, and he's like, "I know, I saw everything. Don't worry, we made a mistake. I wasn't watching."
So funny.
Um,
And also, I resent you for this next bit.
oh,
When we were discussing awards, I was like, "Is this show a comedy?" And you're like, "No, not really. You lied out your ass. This show cracks me up
yeah,
every
but like,
episode."
here's the thing. I said there is definitely plenty of funny moments, but I wouldn't classify it as a comedy
No.
show. Like
No,
it is
it's absolutely a
yeah.
comedy.
No, I still classify it as a drama.
Oh yeah, no, but here's the thing. I think a lot of the time when you say comedy, people think of sitcoms.
Yeah, I think that is also like what.
You can
But
be a
it's
comedy that isn't like just like
yeah.
3 camera angles.
I think also though it's the way that even the cast were like, we don't think we're a comedy, but okay.
No,
I
it's
think
too
it's
funny to not be considered a comedy.
this season more than the others has been funnier.
It's just and the problem is because the show's so intense, even if it's a stupid joke, because it literally cuts the tension, you
mm,
can't help but laugh at it. Like if
yeah,
it was a legit comedy show and he goes out and does the soup thing, you're like, oh, that's a funny bit, well written. But the fact that you've got the intensity of the kitchen and Carmy losing his mind at people, Fax trying to be helpful and fucks it royally,
the constant
you just can't help but
cuts.
laugh.
And like obviously we get that like the fast cuts of like things being refire, like all that stuff. Classic bet, like the way that they produce the show that sold the intensity so much, like on each like night of service. But can we talk about episode 8?
Okay,
Sugar's gone to get sea folds.
was that
The
episode 8?
yeah, the instant stress that I felt when the bear like theme music kicked in when she's in the car going into labor, like that music started, like the really intense from like season 1. My brain, like Like I
Oh yeah,
was
no, sorry. She
con-
starts going. She realizes she's going into labor at the end of
yeah.
episode 7. Yeah, sorry, that's what
So
confused me.
so
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
So episode 8 it starts with her in the car and it's got the bare like intense music. My brain and body just went, I'm instantly stressed. This music has me stressed because obviously I'm conditioned.
Well,
That
here's the thing. At the end of episode 7, she's
mm,
getting the sea folds, and you get the weird cut where you see people locking their phones up. And I turned to Jenna and I'm like, she's about to go into labour right now. And she's
oh
like, what? What do you mean? Why do you think that? I'm like, because we've just watched them lock their phones away. And earlier in the episode, they said, we're going to start locking our phones away. There is
yeah.
no reason to show that before the transition unless it
And
matters. It's Chekhov's gun.
don't forget that computer also said, why have you got a phone for the bear? You don't take reservations, get rid of it. So there's not even a
Yeah.
phone for the front desk anymore. Like any form of contact was gone. And yeah, that
But yeah,
stress. And but then that whole episode turned into such a like,
cathartic episode.
yeah, like honestly, couldn't imagine having to go through labor and also face the family trauma of your mum in the room with you and deal with that at the same time.
It's so funny that she called her mum because she was obviously scared and didn't know what to do. And then her mum comes into shot, and you can just instantly, she's like, I made a
This was
poor decision.
yeah, the instant mistake, and that her mum had me stressed when she was
Yes,
like,
yes, yes,
"Just
yes.
breathe," and she's like, "Can you shut up?" Like the fucking he.
So crazy.
Um, but I mean, yeah, then obviously the final episode, that funeral dinner, like with Olivia Colman's speech on things, the way that Richie just hung out with the servers. I wonder, and maybe like this is probably me wanting the best for Richie, but why do I feel like he maybe ends up having a thing with the female one?
They seem like they
There's
make each
some
other happy.
there's some chemistry there, but whether they just keep it as like a friendship thing, or I was like, get her to come to the bear, get her to come to work at the bear and get shit in order. She'll help get shit in order. Um,
Also, need more Will Poulter.
yes, he's great.
So good. So good. He said he's staying for a few months. I'm
Mm,
hoping that means he's in a fair bit of the next season.
I think he comes in and helps at some with some stuff.
And it was so
Um,
nice to see. And again, it just showed. I don't know if it's just the natural chemistry of the actors, or if they're all getting really well, or if they're all just phenomenal actors. But when like Carmy sees Luca, and they had because like we've known they were friends and they
yeah,
worked together a lot, but seeing them kind of go, "You're right, bro," was fucking awesome. It also because like we know Carmy's average-ish height, and we know Will Poulter's quite
yeah.
tall. But seeing them two next to each other,
Kami looks so
really
small.
funny.
Oh,
So funny.
so this is where, like, obviously, I have no fucking clue about famous chefs or whatnot.
Hmm.
Whether I don't know if they use some
The
famous or
guy that Luca was talking to who paid
yeah.
no attention. I assume he's also a famous chef.
I presume him, and there was someone, there was a few others talking, and like that Kami was, I think, talking with. I feel like some of them had to be like famous chefs, but yeah, when he's asking him like the 20 questions was so fucking funny because you could see that the guy was just not interested, and then you like he realizes after he walks away, like I've just been that guy at the party that absolutely picks the brain of the famous person. It was
So
so
here's what I'm
good.
going to do. I'm going to invite Will Poulter to come and pick my brain about whatever the fuck he wants. I don't have anything to offer him, but I like his voice and he seems likable. We can go grab a beer and he can pick my brain about anything he wants, even if it's the most boring thing ever that I know nothing about. Let's do it. This show, oh my god,
But that whole
I'm.
like,
You know me, I'm not a big rewatcher.
mm,
I am very much right here. I'm like, this is definitely a show I could go and rewatch occasionally because
mm,
although it's intense and it is emotionally draining to watch, it feels cathartic.
yeah, it
There
was.
is some real pain poured into this show.
I don't know if it's like it's. I think it's the just the depth that they go into each of the characters and really just like show it from like almost a human perspective. Like there is no like over drama. Obviously, there is over dramatization. It is a show, but like it doesn't feel over dramatized. It feels very real, and a lot of what they're dealing with, each of the characters, feels very real.
Hmm.
And then on top of that, the whole show is this like love letter to food and running a restaurant and chefs and that whole like industry. But especially that last episode, I said it earlier, but that when they're all sat around the table sharing their stories was so almost like the writers being like their nod to all the chefs and the nod to the people that work in these fancy restaurants that have this like love for the craft of the food. To then Olivia Colman's speech, um, and then obviously it ends with like Carmy having his little talk with her on the outside. To then the wildest thing of Olivia Colman and Will Poulter and like them having the after party at Sid's flat. Like, you think out of all the people that were at that dinner, and Olivia Colman's like, I'm gonna go party with the bear. And Carmy's not even there. Like,
The
obviously it's because like
this
the show obviously is focused on them characters, but it was just funny the idea that this Michelin star restaurant owner is, and Sid says it, she's like, I forget her name in the show, but like Olivia Colman's character opens it and she's like,
Chef Terry.
Chef Terry's in my fridge. Chef Terry's looking in my fridge and I've got nothing.
Hmm.
Just pizza, waffles, and caviar.
This I just again I'm very well aware that I am a what I've seen recently matters a lot. This show is different.
Mm,
It just is. I can tell you that right now. I can tell this is going to be a show that I'm always. It's a show that you wish you could see for the first time again.
yeah.
Just like Breaking Bad, just like seeing Star Wars even for the
Yeah.
first time. There are moments in your heart that you're just like, I wish I could have that feeling again for the first ever time. It's
Yeah.
crazy.
It's and like we've talked a lot about the show and how well it's written, but like also the artistic like it feels also like such an amazing show and why we're calling it like probably one of the best. The way that it is shot from a cinematographer point of things with the using the blue lighting throughout, like that color blue being like a constant artistic choice throughout. All the characters have it like we saw multiple characters from that blue light POV using just like the slow cinematic, like the shots of the food, the way it's all like the intense cuts. We've talked about it in season 1 and 2. Like the way that this show is put together is so well done. Like it's the
Yes.
writers, the director, like, everyone on the show has fucking aced it.
I've never seen anything like it. This show is going to go down in history, and this show is proof that good TV is still being made.
Hmm.
And do not believe these nutters who want to claim that like the best of TV is behind us, because there are still some incredibly creative people out there just waiting to get their chance.
The season ends with the tease of the review,
Yes,
and Carmi's reaction wasn't a great one in my opinion, which makes me
it
think it wasn't
based
great.
on like the flashing of words we got, it looked like the review was kind of
Mixed
there's a lot of
almost.
great ideas, there's a lot of great talent, but it feels directionless. It's
Yeah.
kind of like the vibe we got from the words being flashed up. It's kind of like I see the vision. I know there's talent back there, and
Mhm.
it's a lovely vibe, but it's not good enough right now.
I so season 4, I wouldn't be surprised if Sid does leave.
Hmm.
I think Marcus keeps developing into an amazing pastry chef. I wonder it's either going to be a case of Unk gives him another chance because he's like, oh well, the review wasn't terrible. There was good in it, so we can keep going. I think Kami's like flipped a switch. Hopefully, this means he kind of comes in and he's like, okay, I need to lock this shit in. Like I need to focus and actually be doing the right thing for everyone here. Maybe simplifies it down. Or is there a world where he's like, Let's just go back to making real good beef sandwiches.
I'm telling you, this show ends with the bear closing and the beef being reborn. I'm telling you.
That, or it's like he simplifies the menu down on one of the like to the point where it's like it's essentially a beef sandwich on a plate. Like he takes the essence, because it's also like I think his cousin talks about there's no atmosphere or family vibe in the seating. It feels very like there's no experience there.
Oh, do you think they turn it into like a beef vibe, but with bear food?
Possibly simpler, like, and I also wonder: does Carmy Sid leaving, and Carmy goes, "Fuck it, I don't want a star. Let's just do this my way." Simplifies it, brings the vibe of the beef back, that family space, like community vibe. Everyone like, and they find their groove, and it's like a great place. And by doing that, someone's gonna secretly come in and review it, and they're gonna get a star. And it's this like, idea that you trying so hard to get it, it was never gonna happen. Actually, you just had to do your thing your way, and it worked that way. I wouldn't be surprised if it kind of comes. They give up on the idea of a star, do it their way. Actually, how like they would like Carmi realizes like actually what he wants to do for a restaurant, and in doing that, that gets them the star that they wanted.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. This the show's going to be interesting for sure. I think we're going to get a lot more emotional gut punches before stuff starts to get better.
Yeah.
I
Oh
think
yeah.
next season could be really, really depressing until the very last episode where we get that glimmer of hope.
Yeah, I think it's. I think they're gonna do the exact like this one had so many ups and downs with like stress to calm to the gut punches and the heartbreak. Like it's gonna have us all over again. But
Hmm.
I'm so ready
For
for it.
sure. Yeah, phenomenal show. Can't get enough of it. Nerdy news time. Time for nerdy
Yeah.
news. Nerdy news, come on down. Um, so it's not really nerdy news, but I'm just going to mention it very briefly at the top of the entire thing.
Oh.
It's currently 10:15 on Thursday, the 4th of July, as we're recording this. We
Hmm.
are 15 minutes away from the exit poll for the election today.
Oh shit. Yeah.
Um, so we're in about 15 minutes, we're going to get a good indication of the future of our country. Both myself and Horizontal, since before we could do anything, have been under a Tory government. And touch wood, it looks like we might be finally getting something different. There's no guarantee it'll be better, but different is needed at this point. So
If we
pray
don't,
for us on that respect.
you might be seeing me doing the podcast from a van in a different country.
Yeah,
I
it's
might
getting
just
rough out here.
buy a van and dip out because, yeah.
Not great. Um. Anyway, let's get into actual nerdy news now.
Let's.
Marvel are expected to use San Diego Comic-Con for films this year,
Yep.
and they're expected to save any TV show related announcements for D23. We kind of briefly spoke about this in DMs. It makes complete sense.
Yeah, and it's almost what we always thought they were going to do when they were doing
Yes.
both. We were like, oh, they'll probably save up more TV stuff for D23, but then they kind of mix the two.
Yeah. Because D23 is obviously Disney's only, like it's a
Yeah.
Disney owned event. Only talking about stuff that's going to make Disney Plus money makes sense.
Yeah.
San Diego Comic Con is a bigger platform where the people who attend to that are gonna love whatever you kind of give them or be interested in whatever you give them, but it gets more eyes. So give them the big announcements, give them the film announcements, give them the cast reveals. There's some heavy rumors based on some of the signage going up for San Diego Comic Con that the Fantastic Four cast might be there.
I mean,
So
it would totally make sense considering they've
we all
now
know who they
announced
are
them.
now.
Yeah.
That there is a popular copium rumor that they might get the four of them to come out in costume,
I was going to say, they've often brought people out in costume.
and people are desperate for them to come out in costume.
That would be good.
It would
That would
go.
be very good.
Wonder Man.
Mm,
The Disney Spotlight project that, like, even people like us who pay very close attention to stuff, we've been unsure if it's actually happening for a long time.
yeah,
We did get confirmation 3 or 4 months ago that it was
something
definitely
like that,
happening. It's now reportedly wrapped filming,
which is good.
according to Deadline. That means it was a relatively short production cycle, which hopefully means they know what they wanted to do and did it.
Yeah,
Doesn't seem to have been really any leaks.
I mean, if
So
it's
we just got to
like
kind of wait.
we know it's a Spotlight, and if it's like Echo, which was
Echo.
quite a short story, like set story, should have hopefully, and if they've done it similar like Echo, a lot of that was shot on location, which obviously does help speed up some stuff because there's less post production. Yeah, hopefully whatever they've produced is good.
Yes. Um, more Superman stuff. After
Mm,
this week, I'm not really going to talk about anything other Superman leak wise.
yep.
Which going to give this as the last kind of go round, purely because of what I'm going to say at the top here. After this, unless it's something that isn't a spoiler but it's just cool, or is zero risk of being a spoiler but
Yeah.
it's cool, we will discuss it. Additional set leaks for Superman give an indication of what we might expect.
Hmm.
But James Gunn has assured us that nothing that has been leaked or is leakable due to it filming out in public is a huge spoiler. He's made it very clear anything that would risk spoiling anything would not be filmed where people can just
Snap a
watch.
picture. Yeah.
Exactly. So a couple of the key takeaways. There was someone recording from an apartment or something of Mr. Terrific running down the street with
Mm.
like dog treats jumping up and down.
Yeah, I saw about this.
Someone apparently looked really closely at the pack of treats, and apparently it's pack of treats used in the comics for Crypto, the super dog.
Massive.
And another thing that adds on to this theory is in a scene he shot with Superman, he's got a bandaged up foot that looks like it's been bleeding. So the
Okay.
idea might be that Crypto accidentally shot him in the foot with his laser eyes.
That'd be fun.
Um, Crypto the Superdog would be lit. There's been lots of rumors we're getting Crypto the Superdog, and it really adds into this idea that we're going to get a Superman that is really grounded and like hope,
I'm
positivity, a better tomorrow.
I'm all for crypto. I hope they don't do full CGI dog the whole time.
Yeah, I imagine that'll just be. I don't know. It'll be difficult to tell.
Yeah,
It might be just a case of the dog wasn't on set because they're going to record the dog separately and superimpose the dog for that one,
possibly.
and then whenever else they'll use proper dog. But we'll see. Um, Costumes for Hawk Girl, Guy Gardner, and Mister Terrific all
Mm,
have a very similar style. People like the Mister Terrific outfit. They
okay.
do not like the Guy Gardner and the Hawk Girl outfit because they don't have a very traditional vibe.
Okay.
But what people have noticed is they all look basically identical except for colouring.
Right.
And in the center under the jackets they're all wearing,
Mm,
they have the Lord Tech logo, which is the company run by Max Lord,
right.
who's I don't know too much about him. I think he's a bit villainous. Or no, I think he's a villain, but in Justice League International, he
Hmm.
was more grey. He
Okay.
did bad things, he did good
Got
things.
you.
So people are thinking this might be inspired by Justice League International, and the reason they have costumes that people aren't too happy with is because it's literally James Gunn going, "Yeah, this is corporations." People are claiming the way this is looking
Mm,
is almost like James Gunn fighting back against shows like The Boys that parody superheroes. He's like,
parody.
"Yeah, you've made your corporate superheroes who take the piss out of actual superheroes. Now I'm going to give you a heartfelt Superman story
Takes
where
the piss
it
out of
looks like
corporate.
he's saving a child from a car and he's saving a puppy from a tree and he's just going to be a good person," which is exciting. Um, and a really, really cool thing that maybe
Oh
they
yeah.
could have done for the Flash instead of what they ended up doing.
Mm,
Um, Will Reeve, the son of iconic Superman actor Christopher Reeve,
yep.
has been on set filming a cameo. He's reportedly going to be playing a reporter. I
Yeah.
imagine that reporter is going to be reporting on like a sighting of Superman.
Which would be cool.
It's a gorgeous moment. Christopher Reeve is the absolute fucking goat. Don't ever let anyone convince you otherwise. And it's cool that even though he can't do anything, his son can.
Yeah, like, unlike what the Flash did, James
Mm-hmm.
Gunn respects what Christopher Reeve did, and also respects the family in wanting to have them, like, include them in a way that also is respectful and doesn't try and, like, having his son do a cameo playing just a reporter or something is a much more respectful way than, like, having try being like, oh, have his son on to, like, use him as a base for a digital like, and do some weird flash, like, he's not fucking around with any of that. Like, he's doing it in a respectful way to still, like, respect what his dad did and still include him, which I think is great.
Yeah. So that's all we're going to talk about first Superman this week. And unless, like I said, there's anything that seems relevant to talk about, we
Yeah.
will leave it there just so we can try and enjoy the film as much as possible on the flip side. But my excitement for this film every time I see anything about it is just raising. I've got really high hopes for this film.
Yeah.
Zack Schneider has teased
Hmm.
that DC have potentially greenlit a theatrical release of the Schneider Cut. Now, me and Hori disagree on a part of this. This could be one of them times where I'm hard-headed and I'm telling Hori he's wrong. It's fine though, everyone starts their opinion. James Gunn has to have at least been okay with this. If he was staunchly against it, they wouldn't have done it. You don't risk pissing off your co-CEO by forcing him into doing something like this, especially when he's your creative lead at the same time. I'm not saying he would have been like, oh no, we should definitely do this, but I think he was at least like, yeah, it's not a big deal.
I think that's it. I think it's like execs want something released in the DC world. They know people, we want a Zack Snyder cut all the time. They'll see this as an easy money grab. I think they've, not that like James Gunn disagreed like wholeheartedly. I think it was more a case of he's like, fine, you do this. I know my shit's going to be better. So it won't, in the long run, it won't affect it. But he might not be necessarily happy that that is coming out because he'll know it still muddies the waters a bit, but he knows that his stuff is different and will stand out. So he's kind of like, probably would have said no if he had full control, but probably was put in a position of like, look, we're going to want to do this. And he's kind of had to take that bullet so that they don't fuck with his stuff later, hopefully.
Potentially.
But I do think this is like
However,
we need something to release, we need a money grab.
regardless of what James Gunn's opinion on it, whether he's wholeheartedly greenlit it and he was happy to do it, or whether he was more on the backed into a corner, didn't have much of a choice, I think it's a bad decision.
Oh yeah. It's
Schneider
just a money, just a
fans,
money grab.
yeah, Schneider fans have been a plague on the DC community, making it unbearably toxic. Don't get me wrong, people on the other side have kind of become incredibly toxic to try and counter them, making the whole thing worse.
Hmm.
But giving into them like this gives it a bit more energy. It keeps that spark alive, and it just breeds more toxicity.
You're just gonna get more people. All it does is keeps this whole notion of Henry Cavill was better Superman. No, it was better. Like they're just gonna keep going on about that now for longer because you've closed the gap between we hoped that the DCU when it stopped last year was the last
Mm-hmm.
thing. We were like, okay, there's a good 2-3 year gap before DCU starts. This gives people time to kind of move on from that. Then they'll get to a point where they're like, okay, we're ready for the new stuff. This just like minimizes that gap. And it's like you say, you're just gonna get this noise from the Zack Snyder fans carry on longer than it needed to, purely
Yeah,
because they want money.
I think the only way it works is if it bombs at its theatrical release because no one goes to watch it,
I'd love
and
that.
then it kind of gives DC the ability to go. You guys said you wanted us to restore the Snyderverse. We literally gave you a theatrical release, and none of you fuckers turn up.
You know what I'd love is if when it comes out, James Gunn's like promo that he probably has to do is a case of like, this month Zack Snyder's cut's coming out. This is not my DCU. This is the old Justice League film. This is his vision for it. This is not my DC. Like, be very clear, this is not my DCU. And then people will go, "Oh, well, I don't care about watching that then because it's not the new stuff yet." Like, I think, yeah,
Yeah, it's an interesting decision. Charlie Cox has praised Marvel for their open-mindedness during the redevelopment of Daredevil Born Again. Obviously, we know they kind of had come up with like a 20-episode series plan, and then that got scrapped, and they restarted. They brought back Foggy and Karen.
yeah,
They did a lot of work. They brought in a lot of the people who worked on the Netflix series. I assume that's what he's in reference to. It's like they wanted to do their own thing. They decided they were going to redevelop it, and instead of getting stuck into what they initially had thought about, they were very collaborative, open-minded. They wanted to listen and get an idea. And he said, as a result of that, he thinks everyone's come out a lot happier than they would have been.
yeah. I think because we when it first got announced and there was like the rumor that there's no Foggy and there's no this, we were all a little bit like, and I think the fans voiced that pretty well, and that probably did.
People were very adamant that Karen had to be back and Foggy had to be back.
Yeah, I think to some extent, obviously they're going to do what they want. This is Disney; they're not going to listen to the fans fully. But I do think that helped probably add on top of whatever maybe unsurety there was there already, and then like the fact that they were then open, brought in the next flip writers, got some characters back, reworked it to be like, okay, let's actually be more faithful to what the fans are expecting. Yeah, that's good. Hopefully, this is Marvel turning a bit of a new leaf going forward.
Absolutely.
Your favorite bit of news?
The Watch Dogs movie has begun filming.
It has. All we got was a picture of the slate.
Yeah, I'm excited, but it's pure copium excitement. I don't have any reason to think this film will be good, but you're not going to stop me being excited for it. I'm going to turn up even if the trailer looks shit. Just in case. Because there's always a chance that you get pleasantly surprised. There's always a chance that it's a so bad it's good film.
Yeah.
I don't mind it. Like, would I much prefer it be like a masterpiece that I adore? Yes. Will I settle for so bad it's good and the kind of action film I'll go back and watch every 4 or 5 years just because, yeah, it's shit, but it's my shit? I will settle for that.
Yeah, I think the trailer will be that we said it when it was being discussed and we talked about it. The big thing for this film is if they sell the hacking aspect of it well, so it doesn't come across as goofy, because that's obviously a big part of Watch Dogs and the world. If in the trailer it comes across as very goofy, I'll be very worried for the film, and it'll be then leaning in that, is this going to be so bad it's good? If it comes across as like, this actually seems pretty cool, my hope will be there that it is actually a solid film. So we'll see.
Yes. But I'm excited regardless.
Yeah.
We got a Hellboy reveal for the new Hellboy film coming out later this year.
Look of our new Hellboy.
Yes.
Full gear.
As I said to you before we started recording,
Yeah.
with Hellboy films, I always feel like they actually do a really good job of nailing the look.
Yeah, they do.
And it actually ends up being the rest of the film you need to be worried about. Once again, it looks good.
The effects department and the cosmetics and whatever nailed it. Absolutely nailed the visuals and everything, all the prosthetics. So yeah, it kind of comes down to now, let's hope it's a good film.
Yeah, is the script good? Is the action good? Does it come out well? That's what we're waiting for now. And would it even be Cutscene Convo's Nerd News Network without me shitting on a corporate decision that makes fucking no sense?
That or us talking about Max, good old Max in his room.
Warner Bros. And Paramount have expressed an interest in merging Max and Paramount Plus into a joint streaming service. They will name it Max Paramount Plus minus Divide.
It's so
that
funny.
Last bit was an ad lib.
That this has come after last week where we were discussing the fact that they're releasing shows on HBO to call them HBO original on Max because they know how bad the Max branding is. For this to be coming out, it would not surprise me if this is their way of being like, this allows us to ditch the Max branding, and maybe they switch to like stick with Paramount Plus, or it's like HBO on Paramount Plus or something like that. There's just, yeah, it wouldn't surprise me if this is their way of being like, that was a bomb of a relaunch. This is our best exit strategy away from that brand.
Yeah,
Positive for
absolutely.
us if this happens. Paramount Plus is very easy to get in the UK, and we might actually get
Yes.
to watch some Warner Brothers stuff.
Hopefully, this merge is actually just like a business agreement where they're like, we'll use each other's infrastructure,
Yeah, maybe.
so that it just gives the rest of Europe like access to Max,
Yeah.
which sucks. So I don't want to give them money, but they do have stuff on there that I want to watch.
Yeah.
Crazy.
And
But
that's
there
it.
we go. That is it for this week. We'll be back next week with Josh back for another gaming update.
Yes,
It's that time again already.
it is.
The penultimate episode of Acolyte, the penultimate episode
Yep.
of The Boys. Another just crazy, crazy week. I'm sure it will not disappoint. Don't forget to like and subscribe. We'll see you next time.
See you next week.